All right, what's going on, everybody? So this video is about breaking addiction and building discipline. I've got some notes here because I've been thinking about this one for a minute. So I've been doing, if you've been watching my shorts, which you may or may not have, I've been doing a couple of different challenges recently. I did no video games for 30 days, and I'm in the process of fleshing out a video on that, so I'm gonna make a video about that not too long here. Um, but now I'm doing no scrolling, so that one's been harder. I've been making shorts about it. If you want to watch those, you can watch those. But suffice it to say that recently it's been a season of trying my best to break bad habits, essentially, is what I've been trying to do recently. And not to say that playing video games is end all be all a bad habit, but it was taking up too much of my time, which is why I stopped. Same with scrolling. It's taking up too much of my time, so I stopped, right? And whether or not it's a full bad habit, like, doing drugs or getting hammered every night or something like that, or it's just kind of a habit that you're trying to kick, like scrolling, playing too many video games, I think that there are certain lessons that you can internalize, and there's certain techniques you can use that will hold true in most scenarios. So in this video, I just wanted to talk a little bit kind of more so about my personal experience with this, rather than like, here's the top 10 things that you can do to break any addiction. Like, I don't have that information. But I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about building discipline in connection with removing scrolling phone addiction kind of deal. Because I mean, it was getting pretty bad, and I was scrolling for way too long, and I've significantly toned it down now, to say the least. So I'm just going to get into the main bulk of my notes here. So basically, I've gone about this two ways, right? I did not start by cold turkeying. What I actually started to do was trying to build my discipline in other ways that were not directly related to the addiction itself. So what I did is I've been going on runs pretty frequently. Recently, the past couple of days, it's been snowing, so I haven't been able to run just because it's like, I'll slip and fall and hurt myself or something like that. I've been going on runs with my dad, so a lot of it has to do with, I think, we help to motivate each other. So it's not entirely self-motivated. I think that'd probably be the next step up, but I'm getting a decent amount of, I think, boost to my discipline in the fact that I don't always want to go on a run. As a matter of fact, I frequently don't want to go on the run, but I do it anyway, right? I've also been doing a few other things, like, for example, I've been, trying to lock in more with my homework, trying to do it more on time, not procrastinate and do it late and all that. I've also been doing a weird thing where, so on the college campus I'm at, there's like some vending machines, and and this is going to be like really weird and kind of specific, but it's like sort of worked for me. And this might not work for you, but this is partly helpful for an analogy more than anything. But what I've been doing recently is, so I'll get this craving for like, oh, I want something sweet from the vending machine. And so what I'll do is I'll walk up to the vending machine, and I'll stand in front of it, and I'll just stare at it for a minute. Like, I'll look directly at one of the sweet things that I want to eat, or like a soda or something like that. Like, I'll just stare at it for a minute, and my mouth will start to water, and I'll be like, man, I really want it. And then I'll be like, nah. And I'll turn away, and I'll just walk away. And it's weird, and it's kind of crazy to be doing that to myself. But I don't know. I just figure, like, it helps build my discipline, just to be able to deny yourself, and to be able to deny your desires and your cravings, right? Because I think that's important, like delayed gratification, being able to say no, not right now, to things. I think that's really important, and that's a building block. That's kind of the foundation upon which discipline is built. And a lot of people define discipline that way, just from the word go. Like, some people literally define discipline as the ability to delay gratification, you know? So I think, like I said, I think more, I bring that up more so as an analogy for what discipline is and what discipline should be more than anything else. But yeah, so that's why I shared that. And the next note that I have is that, phone addiction, because that's what's topical for me right now, is um, you know, scrolling, right? I'm doing the no scrolling challenge right now. So, phone addiction, but you can really put almost any kind of addiction, maybe with the, food addiction obviously is connected to vending machines. So if you are really like, if sugary food is like a weakness of yours, then maybe it's going to be harder to say no to the vending machine than it is for me, because it's not really like it's like, okay, I know that it's not good for me, but I am able to say, like, no, like, even if it's in my house, like, I can keep sugary food in the house, and other people eat it periodically, and it's like, I'll eat it every once in a while, but it's like, it's not that big a deal for me. Like, I'm not constantly shoving it into my face to the point where I need to keep it out of the house, otherwise I'm going to get fat, right? It's different for other people, right? But phone addiction, and again, you can substitute any addiction except maybe for food. Phone addiction isn't exactly like a vending machine, right? Like, in the case of the vending machine, if it's that big of a vice for you, where like every time you walk past a vending machine you just cannot resist but to, stick your card in there and press the button and get the sugary food, you can just walk past the vending machine, right? Like, even in that case, like, as if you're full bore, like, you really can't resist, like, if you can just like block it out, like put on some blinders, just speed walk past it, or even plan a different route around the building so that you're avoiding it entirely, right? Then, you can avoid that, right? And to be fair, other types of addiction aren't quite the same as a vending machine, because, like for example, at my house, right? There's no vending machines at my house. So if you're really like, if a vending machine is truly like such an enemy to you, all you need to do is just stay away from the places where there's a vending machine, right? But when you look at addiction from that kind of bird's eye view, if you use the vending machine more as an analogy than as a specific, like, okay, vending machine specifically, like, there's not a video game vending machine or a phone vending machine, but if you treat the phone itself like the vending machine, and you say, okay, what I need to do is I need to plan my route so that I am walking past the vending machine as few times as possible, right? In other words, I need to plan my day so that I have my phone available to me as little as possible, right? That's what you have to do with any addiction, really. Let's take alcoholism as an example. I mean, you have to plan your day around making sure that you have no alone time with you and booze, right? You have to make sure that you are not in a position to do the thing that you are addicted to doing. I've heard a lot of people, I've seen some stuff recently talking about this, and they've drawn the parallel to Odysseus in the Odyssey. There's a part in the story where Odysseus, I use the names interchangeably because it's the Greek and the Roman, but Ulysses is slightly easier to say, so I usually call him Ulysses, but it's Odysseus. Ulysses is on the ship, going past this island that has sirens, like the singing creatures who lure men in with their beautiful song, and then they crash on the rocks and or they drown, right? But for some reason, if you are able to listen to the sirens and then ignore them and or just be able to get through it without dying, like, if you listen to their song, you will be granted wisdom, right? You become a lot wiser. So what Ulysses wanted to do was, he was like, well, shoot, I want to be wiser. So what he instructed his crew to do was he told his crew to stick wax in their ears so that they wouldn't be tempted at all. And what he did was he had them tie him to a mast. He had them tie him to the mast, the main mast of the ship, and not put anything in his ears. So he's hearing the song, and as they're sailing past the sirens, he's going absolutely nuts. He's going crazy. He wants to be let out so he can join the sirens and, basically die essentially. But he's being tempted by this, but he's physically confined, like he's tied to a mast, so he can't do anything about it. And so he's kind of forced to leave without going to the sirens. And then he is granted this wisdom because he made it through, right? And I've heard people kind of tying that with addiction or, just preventing yourself from doing an action. And what you have to do is tie yourself to the mast, right? Either that or do what the crew did and put wax in their ears so you're not tempted at all. In real life, a lot of the time, it's basically the same thing, right? Because with the crew, if they didn't hear the sirens at all, so they weren't tempted at all. If you're dealing with some kind of addiction or a bad habit, again, I'm not necessarily calling scrolling an addiction per se, but if you are dealing with an addiction of some kind, you can fill it in there. But basically, if you're already dealing with an addiction or a bad habit, you're already exposed. You've already been exposed to it and you're tempted by it. So the wax in the ears isn't really an option anymore, right? Because the crew were never exposed to it in the first place. And obviously that's the ideal, right? Like, for example, drinking. I'm never going to drink in my life. I'm 21 years old. I was not excited at all to the point, like, some people are excited about their 21st birthday because they're like, woo, I can legally drink for the first time. I don't care. I'm never going to do it ever. I don't even plan to drink at my wedding, celebrating with other people. I'm not going to do it, right? I'll have some water. I'll have some grape juice. I might have like a singular little sip of something, sip of champagne when there's a toast going around. I might do that, but I'm not going to drink enough alcohol to even feel a minor buzz, right? Because I know that, alcoholism runs in both sides of my family. And so in that specific case, I'm going the crew route of I'm putting wax in my ears. I'm not even going to mess with it at all. I'm not going to cause myself to be tempted by it at all, right? But in other things, you have to do the Odysseus route instead, right? Like with the phone, I can no longer perform the crewmate, or I can no longer go the crew route, right? Because I have a phone. I'm recording a video on this phone right now. I've got a phone that I can scroll on. I kind of can't, like, never have experienced a phone because it's over, right? I've experienced what having a phone, having YouTube is like, just scrolling endlessly. Like, I know what it's like. It is addicting. That's why I'm doing the no scrolling, because I'm trying to not do that anymore, right? So what I have to do instead is I have to go the Ulysses route. I have to tie myself to the mast. And so what that means a lot of the time, in a lot of different ways, for a lot of different bad habits you're trying to break or addictions, a lot of the time what that means is finding ways to avoid it entirely, and also, like, prevent yourself when you have opportunities. For example, if you're sitting at home, right? You scroll on YouTube a lot when you're sitting at home. So what can you do instead? Well, you can hang out with family, right? That's something I've been doing a lot more of. I'll just sit with my dad and I'll read for a while, or maybe half the time I just nap, right? So I've been taking naps a lot more recently. But, like spending some time with family, right? That way I'm far less inclined to scroll on my phone because I'm hanging out with family. And we might not be talking. We might be talking about something philosophical, maybe, might be having a deep conversation. That's a great way to divert your attention so you're not even thinking about it. But half the time we're not even talking. Like I said, we're just sitting together. But it's a great way to kind of avoid just the desire entirely. Because, like, okay, whether or not I have the desire to pull out my phone and start scrolling, I'm sitting with my family right now. I'm reading. My phone's not even, where I'm at. Like, my phone's all the way across the house, right? And what I'd have to do is leave, excuse myself, and I'd have to give an excuse and be like, I want to grab my phone so I can scroll. You know, I'm like, I'm not going to freaking do that, you know? And so that's kind of the general idea, right? Is find ways to confine yourself so that you don't have to fight as hard, right? In other words, like basically confine yourself to the point where you can actively be fighting to do the thing and you're still not able to do it because the systems you've put in place to confine yourself are so effective, right? So surrounding yourself with family, right? And family who are maybe aware of the problem, right? If you can manage to tell people like, hey, I'm addicted to alcohol, dude. And so you start to surround yourself with these people so that they can see you and kind of police you. And that way, if you start reaching for the alcohol, they'll be like, whoa, pause there, brother. Right? Obviously, another example or idea is remove the alcohol entirely, right? Now, obviously, with a phone, it's a lot harder to do. I cannot just throw my phone out, right? I mean, I could, but it would severely hamper me. I use my phone a lot. I need my phone for a lot of the business things that I do, right? Like this right here. Like I'm trying to build a YouTube channel. I kind of need my phone for that, right? Either that or I need a camera, but then I also still need a computer to upload the footage and post it on the computer, right? And if I'm addicted to scrolling, well, shoot, I can scroll on the computer too, right? I used to do that too. Like I would be on Reddit scrolling on the computer. And it's not quite the same because, like, for some, like, scrolling on a mouse with, like, your finger is not quite the same. So I wouldn't do it for quite as long. But, I mean, still, it's like, you know, if you add up the amount of time that you're scrolling on the computer, it still can be a long time. It still can be hours a week, right? So I'm kind of getting off topic. I've been off topic this whole time. I've just been kind of rambling, I feel like. But basically, the idea is like confine yourself, put systems in place so that you are sufficiently confined so that when you try to do the thing that you're trying to not do, you can't do it, right? So surround yourself with family so that you are less tempted, and so that also, even if you are tempted, it's kind of honestly, I mean, more than anything, it's just really awkward. Like, you know, like what are you going to do? Excuse yourself to go to another room so that you can go drink alone and get drunk? Like, you know, like, you know, even if you're like really a full bore alcoholic, like, I mean, a lot of like, it's harder to excuse yourself from a family setting than when you're just alone, right? It's way easier to succumb to the bad habit when you're alone, right? So making sure you're not alone, setting up some kind of boundary, like, so for scrolling, I have app timers on a lot of my apps, right, on my phone, so that if I were to open the app, I only have a few minutes on the app, right? And I actually figured out on my phone, there's a little hack. You can actually set the timer to 0 minutes and 0 hours and 0 minutes. So you actually, like, technically you're locking the app without actually, like, because with some apps you can't delete them and you can't, like, lock them. But you can put a 0 minute timer on it so that when you try to open it, it says, oh, your timer's expired, right? And while it's not necessarily foolproof because it's really a simple matter of just clicking settings and then deleting the timer, like, it's enough for me to be able to say, like, oh, I have a timer on the app. Why do I have a timer? Oh, it's because I'm trying to not scroll, right? So that only works for me because I'm not full bore, like, addicted. Like, I think if it were like, if you're a full bore alcoholic, having a padlock on the alcohol drawer is probably not going to be enough, right? You're going to go for the key, you're going to open it. So in a case like that, is it more effective to just throw the alcohol away? Yes. And realistically, if I'm trying to stop scrolling, is it technically more effective for me to just throw my phone away? Yeah. Obviously, it's not feasible for me to do. I can't do that. So I have to find other ways around it, right? But the point is, like, and I've stated it, I've said it several times, but I'm going to say it one more time. The point I'm trying to make is, don't try to just raw will, like, sheer force of will, just, like, power through it, because you're going to lose, right? When you feel the urge to succumb to the bad habit, what you need to do is find a way to already have put some blockers in place so that when you feel the urge, you can't do it, even if you were to try, right? Like, because it's one thing for you to just sit there and like, oh, I really want to drink right now, and there's an alcohol bottle right here, and if I were to just stare at it, if I'm like, let's say I'm an alcoholic and I'm sitting staring at a bottle of alcohol, and I get like, I'm salivating and I'm sweating and like, okay, I mean, maybe I'm going to be able to resist for a little while. But if I'm sitting in a room alone with a bottle of alcohol for hours and hours, realistically, like, I'm not going to not drink at some point, right? Like, you're going to fail at some point if the only thing you're doing is just raw dogging it, just through sheer force of will, you know? I mean, even the people who say like, oh man, I just took one decision and I never drank again, or I never smoked again. Like, even those people, like the people who can just sheer force, like it seems like it's through sheer force of will, they have some external motivator. It's like, man, I went to the doctor and the doctor said that I've got some black mass in my lungs, and if I smoke even one more time, it might turn into cancer. Like, I know that's not scientifically accurate, but like, let's say that's the case. Like, okay, it's more than just, oh, I really want to smoke, but no, I'm trying my best to not. Like, okay, you're trying your best to not get cancer at that point. So it's like, okay, it's a little bit easier, I feel like, to be motivated to not smoke when you have some external motivation. Right? And when you compound that with like, well, shoot, I don't want to get cancer because I want to live so I can see my kids do, grow up and do great things, right? So you're quitting smoking, you're quitting drinking for your kids, right? And so now it's more so than just sitting alone in a room with a bottle and you're just trying to do it just cause. Now you're doing it for your kids, and now you have a reason to not do it. And furthermore as well, I think when you're doing it for your kids and you're fully committed to just, I'm never drinking again. So you throw away the bottles because you're never going to touch them again, right? You throw away the cigarettes because you're never going to touch them again, right? And so I think that's the general idea, is just try to set up systems where you can more easily resist the temptation, right? No matter what it is, there's something you can do. Honestly, like, and I would encourage you to sit down and spend some time thinking about it. Like, think about your particular situation and say to yourself, like, okay, what can I do to make it harder for me to access this in the future? Right? And I mean like harder. Like again, like using the alcohol example, don't put a padlock in front of the alcohol. Like, yes, technically that'll make it harder, but let's be realistic here. Is it that much harder? No, right? Picture Odysseus tied to the mast. He is tied to the mast. He can't escape, right? Once he told his crew to tie him to the mast, they tied him there tight. He's not getting out, right? So that's what you have to do. Think very seriously about, what can I do? How can I tie myself to the mast so that I am physically incapable of doing this thing when the urge strikes me? That's what you got to do, So this was a long video. This is, I think, one of the longest videos that I've made to date. So if you've made it all the way to the end, I appreciate you. I apologize. I know I've rambled a bit, and I have definitely repeated myself several times. If you want to look at my notes, I didn't have very many notes. So I'm just spitballing here. So I will admit I'm definitely rambling a bit, and I'm sure gone off on tangents and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. And even if you only made it part way, I mean, I know that if you've only made it part way, you're not going to see this message, but I still appreciate anybody who clicks on the video at all. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.